Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. Week 11 of the college football season is officially upon us. We've got a really fun and exciting slate. And as always, guys, I've got some really great picks to go ahead and share with you. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day and a new week of college football comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. I have 15 picks to share with you guys in today's college football picks video. Welcome back, guys. I want to apologize for no video last week. I was very sick. I'm still a little sick now, but I am feeling much better. Was just too sick to record an hour-long video, unfortunately. I'm itching to make it up to you guys in this week's video. I got some really great picks. Let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into them. So starting off, guys, we have our third and long category. If you don't remember how the show works, we break it into 3 categories, 5 picks in each category. I like all 15 picks in this video, but this is sort of a confidence ranking. Third and long being the lower end of the confidence scale, first and goal, which is the final segment, being the higher side of the confidence scale. And don't worry if you miss any picks, guys. They will be down below in the pinned comment and as well as in the description to go ahead and follow along. All right, guys, our first pick in the third and long category comes from Tulane at Memphis, 9 p.m. kickoff on Friday. And I'm going with Memphis here on the spread, -2.5. Grabbing this for -146 over on FanDuel. Best odds available to me. Make sure, as always, guys, shop around for the best sportsbook odds available to you. A little high, a little juiced on the play, but I still think it's a valuable spot for Memphis here. Now, it should be noted right off the bat that Memphis's quarterback, Brendan Lewis, is questionable for this game. And at this point, it's looking 50-50 as whether or not he's actually going to play against Tulane, which obviously is a reason why I think the spread is on the lower side. However, regardless if Lewis plays or not, I still kind of like Memphis in this spot. They have the home field advantage, obviously, in what is a massive game for AAC championship implications. And although Tulane is pretty well battle-tested, they're coming off a really embarrassing loss to UTSA. They got blown out in that one. And, you know, I just think Memphis, there's a lot of numbers that support them here. Defensively, they are a top 25 scoring defense in college football, 42nd in terms of rushing yards allowed per game, 68th in terms of passing yards allowed per game. Their pass rush leaves something to be desired, but there really is no weakness for Tulane's offense to go ahead and take advantage of. Like I said, they're pretty decent on both passing defense, rushing defense. They're not a great team, but they're good enough in this spot with the home field advantage. On the flip side, Tulane's defense is a mess. 103rd in passing yards allowed, 89th in rushing. And that's why I'm not too concerned with Lewis being out, because they can still run the football. This Memphis team averaging over 200 rushing yards per game this year. Tulane, the 89th run defense in terms of yards per game allowed. They also don't have a great pass rush. I think despite the injury at quarterback, I still trust Memphis' offense against this weak Tulane defense to win this game by 3. You have the home field advantage. Tulane coming in this game not in the best of form. These two teams played last year. Memphis beat them pretty well at 34-24. Nice 10-point victory for the Memphis Tigers. And lastly, Tulane, they are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games on the road. And you can see the struggle there. Now, they did cover the spread versus Tulsa back on September 27th, but blown out to Ole Miss. They got blown out by UTSA. They barely survived USA, and then last year got blown out by Army. So this is a team that has struggled mightily on the road dating back to last season. Even with the injury at quarterback, I still think Memphis at -2.5, and not 3.5, 2.5, is a very good play. All right, guys, and our second pick in today's video, our second pick in the third and long category here, Auburn at Vanderbilt, 4 p.m. kickoff on Saturday here. We're going Vandy on the spread, -6.5, which I am grabbing for -103 over on Novig, best odds available to me. Vandy coming off a very tough loss at Texas last week, but I still really like this Vanderbilt team overall. A 75% cover rate against the spread this year, 78%. Just looking at the specific line of -6.5. Against an Auburn team that has been a cover disaster this year. 33% cover rate against the spread in general. Now, at +6.5, they have a 67% cover rate, so a little better there. This Auburn team is very confusing. Defensively, they're actually very, very good. If we look at the right side of the screen here, this is a top 20 scoring defense, top 10 against the run. Passing defense leaves something to be desired. But offensively, they are just a mess. And Jackson Arnold, who was supposed to come in here and help some things, 104th in the nation tied for points per game, 120th in passing yards. They have a decent rushing offense. I just don't see where Auburn keeps this game. They're on the road at a Vanderbilt team that's, despite coming off that Texas loss, they are still in pretty good form, despite being a 2-loss team with those losses to Alabama and the loss to Texas. Those are two pretty good teams, right? The college football playoff ranking just came out. Alabama, top 5 team in the country. Texas ranked number 11 in the country right now. So those losses look pretty good in the resume. I still think Vanderbilt can salvage the season and at least get close to the playoff, if not maybe sneak into the playoff. Now, that's a long shot because, again, they've still got a lot of good games left on their schedule to go, but they have the Missouri win in their back pocket. They have the LSU win, South Carolina wins, Virginia Tech wins, so on and so forth. But I think this Vanderbilt team obviously has to win this one. Auburn's a tough play because of their defense, but offensively, I just don't think they can do enough here to keep the game close or even win the game outright. Their only strength offensively is their rushing offense, and Vanderbilt a top 20 run defense in the nation in terms of yards per game. So I think Vanderbilt defensively is just good enough to keep Auburn's offense at bay. On the flip side, I do think that you're going to find Vanderbilt will be able to move the ball with Diego Pavia in this Vanderbilt offense. They'll be able to do just enough to win this game and at least cover the spread. That home field advantage being a huge factor here. Final point on this game, the Vanderbilt Commodores are 7-1. That's an 87.5% cover rate against the spread in their last 8 games versus top 25 scoring defense. So when they face good defenses, they have covered the spread pretty consistently. Now, -6.5, not as much, but in the general spread, you saw Texas, Missouri, just this year, the only game in the last 8 games dating back to last year where they didn't cover the spread against a top 25 scoring defense was against Bama this year on October 4th. But you see a lot of good games. Auburn, they beat Auburn last year 17-7 at Auburn. Now this year, I think Vanderbilt is better than they were last year, and they're home in this matchup. Obviously, you see Texas, you see Bama. They've been really a pest in the SEC for a couple of years now. I think they should be able to cover the spread and beat Auburn, no problem. All right, guys, my third pick in today's video, sticking with the SEC here, we've got Georgia at Mississippi State, 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with Mississippi State here, plus 10.5 on the spread. Now, the actual spread, I believe, is 8.5. I'm adding a couple points to make it a little more valuable for us here. I'm grabbing this for -127 over on Novig, so pretty good value despite adding a couple points to the spread. And you want to talk about a covered darling. Mississippi State has covered the spread at an 88% hit rate this season. Even looking at just this line of plus 10.5, the same thing, 89%, 88%. The only game this year Mississippi State failed to cover the spread was against Texas A&M back on October 4th. That game at College Station at A&M, and they played some tough games. I mean, they covered versus Texas. They nearly beat Texas. They blew that game, obviously. They covered versus Tennessee. They covered versus Florida. Now, they haven't won a lot of these games, but they've covered, and that's the name of the game here. I'm not picking Mississippi State to upstate and beat Georgia. I'm picking them here to go ahead and keep the game tight, keep it within 10 points, and cover the spread. And Georgia has not been a great cover team. In general, a 43% cover rate against the spread this season. Just looking at the line of -10.5, only 3 times this year have they beaten a team by 11 or more points. Kentucky was the last time they did it back on October 4th. The other 2 times, Austin Peay and Marshall back in the first couple weeks of the college football season. Georgia's a top 10 team in the country. They are still a very good team, but they have not been killing teams. Every game they've won, minus, again, those 3 games I pointed out, have been pretty close games. Now, Auburn, they beat by 10. Ole Miss, they beat by 8. Florida, they beat by 4. They've had a couple games where they win by at least, a touchdown. But again, asking them to win by more than 10 here on the road against a pretty solid Mississippi State team that fights, right? They definitely fight. Offensively, I think the Mud Dogs are good enough to go ahead and stay close here. I said Mud Dogs, apologies. Bulldogs. Mississippi State Bulldogs here. Was thinking Bobby Boucher. Mississippi State Bulldogs. They're a top 40 scoring offense, top 50 passing yards per game. I think offensively they should be able to at least keep it close here with a Georgia defense that hasn't been as great as they normally are. They don't really have much of a pass rush here to put pressure. On the flip side, Mississippi State defensively, again, they're not a great team, but just good enough to maybe, just maybe, keep Georgia at bay. And again, the whole thing here is keeping this within 10 points. The home field advantage, they're okay on both sides of the ball. Defense is a little bit weaker than the offense. I think Mississippi State can hang around and keep within 10.5 points. That's my prediction here for this game. Again, it's in the third and long category for a reason. It's not my most confident pick of the week, but I still like the pick in general. One last point, these teams did play last year at Georgia, and I think Mississippi State is a better team this year than they were last year. They lost by 10, so they did cover the spread in that game. And Georgia was a 33.5 point favorite in that spot. Now you flip it a year later, I think Georgia's a little bit, I wouldn't say weaker. They're still a good team, but Mississippi State is definitely better. They have the home field advantage. Keep it within 10. They did it last year. I think they can definitely do it again this year. All right, guys, our fourth pick in today's video. Again, continuing on with the SEC football here. We've got LSU at Alabama, 7:30 p.m. kickoff. We got the Roll Tide Bama bandwagon here. Alabama -8.5. Taking them on the spread here. Grabbing them from -123 over on Novik. Bama coming off the bye. The last time we saw them, they beat South Carolina. A little bit of a tight game there, but they did beat South Carolina. Bama on an incredible run coming into this game. Wins over Georgia, Vandy, Missouri, Tennessee. all ranked opponents at the time they played them, all really big wins for Bama. This team went from a team, the Florida State loss, obviously, week 1. And then, they going into that Georgia game, there were some doubts about this Bama team. They have silenced all the doubters. They're one of the best teams in all of college football, for sure. And you've got an LSU squad coming into town that just fired Brian Kelly. The last time we saw them was the A&M game. I was actually at that game. It was tough to watch for the LSU fandom. Pretty good first half for the LSU, honestly. They were leading going to halftime, and then second half was an absolute disaster. But they fired Brian Kelly. They've had some guys step away. We've had some guys, with some injury stuff. I just don't think – I know the interim head coach, you can make the argument sometimes when they switch coaches like this. You saw with like UCLA, for example. They bring in the interim head coach. A couple weeks later, they beat Penn State. I think they have more to do with Penn State than anything. But we see this in both NFL and college. Sometimes you bring in the interim. It kind of gets the guys rallied. If Brian Kelly was as bad as people really say behind closed doors, maybe this team rallies around the interim head coach. I just think you're in Tuscaloosa against a Bama team that is also off the bye, well-rested, in great form, beating a ton of great teams. This LSU team is not a great team. I think Bama should go ahead and win this game and win it easily if we're being honest here. I just don't have much faith in LSU at this point. These two teams met last year in Death Valley, and Bama killed them 42-13. I think Bama's better than they were last year. I think LSU's worse than they were last year. I don't see how this game is anywhere closer, so I think Bama crushes them in this spot. All right, guys, our fifth and final pick in the third and long category comes from Syracuse at Miami, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Hurricanes here, minus 28.5 points on the spread, which I'm grabbing from minus 104 over on Novig here. Miami, obviously, looked like one of the best teams in college football. I was riding them. They won me a lot of money this year. And then they lost to Louisville, and then they lost last week to SMU, and now they're a two-loss team. They're still ranked, but their season has completely spiraled out of control. I don't think Miami's done just yet as a two-loss team. There's a lot of teams that are losing games, a lot of big matchups in the coming weeks. I don't think Miami's season is over because they lost those 2 games, but obviously the pressure is now on. They cannot afford to lose anymore. I think they need to not only win games, but win with some style here. You're playing a Syracuse team that we talked about it last week, or actually I wanted to talk about it last week, but unfortunately I was sick. I loved UNC last week. We talked about it the week before that when they played Georgia Tech. This is a Syracuse team since losing quarterback Steve Angeli. It's been a disaster, okay? They beat Clemson. They lose Angeli in that game. Then they get blown up by Duke, beaten by 13 to SMU, 17 to Pitt, 25 to Georgia Tech, 17 to North Carolina. They have lost every game by at least 13 or more points in every game since they lost Steve Angeli. Miami is still one of the top 20 teams in the nation. They're still a really solid squad. I still believe that Miami is one of the better teams in college football. I still think they can recover here. But a big win here where they blow Syracuse out could help their resume in a big way. Miami covering the spread at a 71% hit rate this year. Syracuse covering at a 25% hit rate. Not very good. Miami's still a top 10 defense. I don't see how Syracuse moves the ball in this game, if we're being honest. And on the flip side, their defense is abysmal. 127 in the passing yards per game. Carson Beck should have a field day throwing on this Syracuse defense. There's not really any metric I can use to defend Syracuse here. So I think Miami kills them here. Minus 28.5 or minus 104. Very good value. All right, guys, that concludes the third and long category. Again, if you guys are confused about the segments, it's a confidence meter, okay? I like all 15 picks. Just each category has increased confidence. And it changes how many units I bet. You'll see if you click the link in the pinned comment. Third and long, I put 3/4 of unit on those plays. Second and short, I put a full unit. And then first and goal, my favorite picks, I put 1.25 units. So it also dictates how many units I play on each play. Again, if you click the link down below in the pinned comment, it'll show everything I'm talking about here. Our second segment now, second and short. These are the picks I like a little bit more than the ones I just shared with you guys, but still not my favorite bets of the week. By the way, guys, we're about to hit the 14-minute mark in today's video. So if you are still watching at this point, please comment 14 down below. As always, guys, I appreciate those who watch through each and every single video here on the channel. It really does mean a lot to us. Put a lot of hard work, whether it be myself, Ev, Trey, whether we're covering college, NFL, NBA, college basketball, whatever the case may be. We put a lot of hard work into these. So when you do watch all the way through and don't just jump to the pinned comment or the description for the picks, we appreciate it. So comment 14 down below. Our sixth pick in today's video and our first pick in the second and short category comes from the Indiana-Penn State game, 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Hoosiers team total over here, 30.5 points, which I'm grabbing for minus 135 over on DraftKings. Indiana has cashed this in 6 of their 9 games this year. I'll make sure to go ahead and pause for the applause. 67% hit rate would be better if it was 69%. 67% hit rate on the season. They're averaging 46.44 points per game this season. And they've cashed it in 3 consecutive games, back-to-back weeks, by the way. They've scored at least 55 points. This Indiana team is cruising. Now, is Penn State as bad defensively as UCLA? Well, UCLA beat them, so I just think this Indiana team right now, they are scoring in bunches, and Penn State, they are 41st in the nation, giving up just shy of 22 points per game. But if we do go ahead and look at some of the last few teams that played Penn State, Ohio State scored 38 on them. Iowa scored 25, which doesn't cash this line, but they did cash their team total over. UCLA, like I just mentioned, scored 42 against Penn State. So we've seen some teams go off on them. I think Indiana being, the second-ranked team in the country, according to the CFP rankings, it says something. They've been scoring in bunches. They're averaging almost 47 points per game this year. I don't see why they shouldn't go ahead and score a bunch in this one. They're averaging almost 40 points per game over their last 5 games. Penn State tied for 90th in the nation rushing yards, allowed Indiana top 10 rushing offense. They're going to be able to look at the numbers. First in scoring, first and third down, first and first downs. Great offensive line. Indiana's going to score as much as they want in this one, honestly. And on the flip side, I don't see Penn State really doing much either. I forget what the spread was in this game. I don't mind Indiana's spread, but I think them scoring like 31 or more points to me seemed like the best play in this spot. So I like Indiana, team total over 30.5 points. Is our first pick in the second and short category. All right, guys, our 7th pick in today's video and our second pick in the second and short category. Speaking on the Big Ten further, we've got Oregon at Iowa, a massive game here, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. And I am going with the Hawkeyes here, plus 7.5 on the spread. Now, I'm going to reserve some thoughts for this game because I am going to do the Clash of the Titans video. I'll have that in a separate video where I fully break down this game, giving you guys some extra picks and some extra insight into this game. But briefly speaking on it, going plus 7.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 138 over on Novig here. I just think Iowa, they've been hanging around all season long. 71% cover rate on the season in general. They've covered this spread, of plus 7.5 in every game this season. And they've played some good teams. Indiana, we just talked about Indiana. They're ranked number 2 in the country. They've been a dominant force all year long. Iowa kept that game close, 20-15. It was a tight game. Iowa kept it within 5 points. And I think Indiana is better than Oregon. They beat Oregon. I think Iowa can keep this game close. They have the home field advantage, which is massive in this spot. Even when they've lost this year, Iowa has not lost by more than 5 points. They have been a dominant team. Their defense, we know, one of the best in college football. They're going to be able to go ahead and slow Oregon's offense down, and that's obviously key. The flip side here is, what is Iowa going to be able to do offensively in this spot? I do think they should have some success on the ground and be able to keep this game nice and tight and close. I'm not saying Iowa's going to score many points in this spot, but you see how Indiana was 20-15. We could see something similar. As long as they don't lose by more than a touchdown, we are good. Something along the lines of 20-13 or 21-14 gives us a cash, and Oregon still wins the game. Although I do think Iowa money line could be an interesting play. I just don't think Iowa offensively has enough to win this game. But I think they can at least keep it close with plus 7.5. And again, make sure to check out that Clash of Titans video. Will be coming out later on, probably either tonight or tomorrow. We'll go kind of deeper into that Oregon-Iowa game. Our 8th pick in today's video and our 3rd pick in the second and short category. And I do want to apologize, by the way. I know my voice is not 100%. I'm kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Scratchy voice, whatever, hoarse voice, whatever you want to say. I do apologize if I sound a little different. But our next pick, sticking with the Big Ten Conference here, Maryland at Rutgers, 2:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I am going with Rutgers here on the money line, which I'm grabbing for minus 108 over on FanDuel. Best odds available to me. Am I biased because Rutgers has a great quarterback? Perhaps. Do I think he should be the number 1 overall pick in the draft? Perhaps. Not actually, but imagine the bragging rights if we had a Greek quarterback go number 1 overall in the draft. Athanasios Kaliakmanis, shout out to him, Rutgers starting quarterback. I am pulling for him to get drafted. He's been pretty good this year. Rutgers in general, they've been an interesting team. They haven't won a lot of games, but they are competitive in some games. They're better than they were before, I guess, and their offense looks pretty decent with the Greek kid at quarterback. Maryland, on the other hand, they are in horrible... Now, both teams are not in great form. Rutgers has lost 5 of their last 6. Maryland's lost 4 in a row. Both these teams have kind of had chainsaw schedules. I mean, Rutgers, they've played Iowa, Maryland, Washington, Oregon, and Illinois in 5 of the last 6 games. I mean, a lot of those teams are ranked. A lot of those teams are very good. Iowa and Oregon, obviously 2 top 20 ranked teams in the country. Some pretty good teams there, right? Same thing for Maryland, though. They played Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, not really a great team, but Indiana, coming off a really big loss to Indiana. So both these teams have kind of been through the ringer. I do think Rutgers has been a little bit more impressive because at least they still... they gave Minnesota a hell of a battle. To be fair, I guess Maryland also gave Washington and Nebraska good fights. This is a coin flip, honestly, to me. These teams are very similar, but Rutgers has the home field advantage. I like their quarterback situation a lot. Again, I am am biased, admittedly. But they have a big advantage right here. 21st in passing yards per game. Maryland tied for 77th in passing yards allowed. Maryland's pass defense leaves a lot to be desired. There's a Rutgers offense that has been very good throwing the football with Athanasios running the ship. The flip side, though, Rutgers' defense is a disaster. It's the reason why, not the reason, not Wabbit season. It's the reason why Rutgers has not won many games this year. The defense is abysmal. But to be fair, Maryland's offense is not that great. They do have a decent pass offense, which they have an advantage there also. They should be able to throw the ball. This is a coin flip game. It's going to be tight. I just ultimately trust the home field advantage and the quarterback a little bit more in this spot for Rutgers. So I'm taking them here on the money line for minus 108. These teams did meet last year in Maryland, and Rutgers beat them by 2 touchdowns in that spot. Maryland also 1-5 against the spread in the last 6 games on the road. So a couple advantages there for Rutgers in this spot. All right, guys, our 4th pick in the second and short category and our 9th pick overall in today's video. We're looking at A&M at Missouri, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. This is another one of my Clash of the Titans video games. I have a Clash of the Titans video for this game. Let's use proper English here. So I'm not going to dive too deep into this one. I have another video I'm doing that will kind of give a much deeper analysis, insight, and more picks into this game. So make sure to go and check that out when it drops on the channel in the next 24 to 48 hours. I would say 24. But A&M minus 5.5 is my pick. I'm grabbing that for minus 125 over on ESPN Bet. On the road at Missouri, tough spot, and Missouri has been a very good team, and I was kind of critical of them earlier on, but they have played well. Even in losses to teams like Vanderbilt and Bama, they lost both those games by 1 score and kept it pretty close. I was impressed with them despite the losses. I just think A&M, undefeated, ranked number 3 in the country, coming off the bye week here. To be fair, so isn't Missouri. I just think A&M is a better squad. It'll be an interesting game. I just think A&M's pass rush is going to make life hell for Missouri's offense. Number 1 in sacks in the nation, tied for 2nd in QB hits in the nation. And this Missouri offensive line is not that great. They're going to put pressure on the quarterback and obviously stopping the run here. I just think that Missouri's offense could have a little bit of a rough time. On the flip side, A&M obviously one of the better offensive teams in college football. Missouri is very good defensively, but I do think that big advantage there is A&M's pass rush and that front 7 even, if we're being honest, against Missouri's offensive line and their offense. I think that's going to be the difference maker in this game. Again, you want more insight, more thoughts, that video will be coming out probably tomorrow. All right, guys, our 5th and final pick in the second and short category, our 10th pick overall in today's video comes from Stanford at UNC, 4:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Tar Heels here, minus 6.5 at home. Now, the actual spread is 7.5. I'm shaving a point off to make it a little easier for North Carolina here. Grabbing it for minus 139 over on DraftKings. Don't look now, but Bill Belichick has started to turn North Carolina around. Now, they still aren't winning many games, but they are playing better. They've covered the spread in 3 consecutive games. They now have a cover rate in 57% of their games this year. So, we've talked a lot of crap on UNC, but they have been now, after the last couple of weeks, a halfway decent cover team. Now, it doesn't mean much that you beat Syracuse nowadays, but it is a win on the road at Syracuse, which is a big for UNC. They gave Virginia a hell of a battle. They gave Cal a hell of a battle. Since their bye week, they have been playing much better. Even though they've been losing still, they're hanging around with some decent competition. Virginia is a ranked team. They lost by 1 in that spot. Stanford's bad. They're really bad. 22% cover rate this year against the spread. They've only covered twice this year versus FSU. They kept the game within a touchdown. And then versus Boston College. Neither of those, BC is like, 1-8 right now? And then, Florida State, they've been up and down all year. Stanford is 0-6 against the spread in their last 6 games on the road. Defensively, they're a bit of a mess, although UNC offensively isn't that great. On the flip side, though, UNC defensively is actually top 50 scoring in the nation. They're pretty good on both passing defense. They're really good against the run. Where does Stanford score points in this game? I really don't know. I trust UNC a little bit more in this spot than I do Stanford here with the home field advantage as well. Stanford traveling cross-country. Although technically they did play last week versus Pitt, so not really a cross-country travel. But this is a West Coast team playing on the East Coast. Actually, they were in Stanford last week. I apologize. So look at their travel schedule here. This is what I mean when you have West Coast teams playing Eastern teams. Stanford, they went at SMU, which is Texas, home versus Florida State, cross-country to Miami, back cross-country to Pitt, and now back cross-country again to North Carolina. A brutal travel schedule here for Stanford. I think UNC can go ahead and take them here. Minus 6.5 for minus 139. This Stanford team is really bad. UNC hasn't been great, but Stanford's been worse. All right, guys, that ends the second and short category. We have 5 picks left in today's video. But first, before we finish off with our first and goal, my favorite picks for this Week 11 slate, I want to talk to you briefly about the sponsor of today's video, Novig. Guys, if you have not dabbled into peer-to-peer exchanges, you are absolutely missing out. Using Novig allows you to get unbeatable prices and lines on just about every game. Why is that? Because there's other users setting the lines. They're setting the odds. You're competing with the other users, not the big-time books. Peer-to-peer is growing at a crazy rate, and you don't want to be late to this. Sign up for Novig today using the link in the description as well as in the pinned comment, and you'll get a nice sign-up bonus of up to $50 as well. Check it out. It operates just like your normal sportsbook, just with better lines. Obviously, you've seen all video long. Novig has given me some of the best odds available on a lot of these plays, so make sure to go ahead and check them out. Again, link down below in the description or the pinned comment. Shout out to Novig for sponsoring today's video. All right, guys, now we wrap things up with our first and goal category. These are our 5 best picks, my 5 favorites, my locks, if you will, in this week's video. We also differentiate. Jesus. Listen, guys, I'm just coming off an illness. My brain is still a little mush at the moment. Excuse me. We differentiate these picks because we put more on these. These are 1.25 unit bets. So we put a little extra money on these plays because these are my favorite bets of the week. And so my first pick in the first and goal category, my 11th pick overall, in today's video, we have BYU at Texas Tech, 12 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going Texas Tech first half spread here, -4.5, which I'm grabbing for -125 over on DraftKings. Again, another one of the games I'm covering in the Clash of the Titans video series, so I'm not going to talk too much here about this one, but I love Texas Tech here in the first half. They have been dominant, especially this line, -4.5. They've covered it in 78% of the games this year. The only 2 times they didn't versus Kansas, where they were up by 4, but obviously spread being 4.5, and then versus Arizona State. Arizona State is the only time this season they've trailed at halftime. Let me specify. They have led by 4 points or more in every game at halftime except for the Arizona State game. Home field advantage here, BYU, they can sometimes get out to a bit of a slow start. They are without their starting running back in this spot, which obviously is huge. Their last time out, they played Iowa State at Iowa State. They did end up winning that game, but they had a bit of a slow start, came back in the second half. They were trailing by 7 at halftime to Iowa State. On the road, at Texas Tech, they're not going to be able to run the football the way they typically do. And this is definitely the best team they played all season long, the toughest team they played all season long. This Texas Tech team is very, very good. I just think BYU, they're not going to be able to run the ball the way they normally do. That's going to be massive. They're going to have to rely more on the passing game in this spot, which obviously this is not the defense you necessarily want to do that against. And actually, good thing I checked this. LJ Martin, his status changed. He's now listed as probable. So he was listed, it was looking from the reports I was reading last night and this morning. Prior to this, it looked like he wasn't going to play. He's now been upgraded to probable. So that's pretty good, obviously. I still think regardless, though, he's obviously banged up. I think if it wasn't such a big game, this is obviously a Big 12 championship preview game, honestly. 2 top 10 teams in college football. These teams will definitely meet each other again in the Big 12 championship game as long as they don't, fumble somewhere else in the schedule. Regardless, I still think this is one of my favorite bets in the slate here. Texas Tech -4.5, regardless if they have LJ Martin or not. I just think Texas Tech they get off to such a hot start in a lot of these games. BYU, I'm not saying they're a terrible first half team, but they're definitely more of a second half team. I like Texas Tech a lot in this spot, -4.5. Good thing I double checked the injury report there because I could look pretty stupid if I didn't, check that. I'm talking about LJ Martin not playing, and then he obviously says probable. Our second pick in our first and goal category, our 12th pick overall in today's video, we have Iowa State at TCU, a little Big 12 showdown here. 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going Iowa State with the Cyclones here, +7.5 on the spread, which I'm grabbing for -132 over on FanDuel. Now, look, admittedly, I've been very critical of Iowa State this season. They have just a 25% cover rate against the spread in general this year. However, we do narrow it down to this specific line of +7.5. And the numbers do look better. Now, BYU, they got blown out in that game. They got beat by 8 against Cincinnati. The one thing you can say about Iowa State, they're battle tested. They beat Iowa early in the year. Obviously, Iowa now a top 25 team in the nation. They lost to Arizona State, but they hung around in that game. BYU and Cincinnati are the 2 outliers here, but they lost to Colorado. Actually, they've been on a pretty bad run lately. But this team has won some big games, and they played a lot of good competition here. This team, if one thing you can say positive about them, they are battle tested. Okay, now again, the cover rate you see there, 4 straight games they failed to cover the spread here. TCU, are they at the level of a BYU or an Arizona State or a Cincinnati or an Iowa or, I don't think so. They're a very good team this year for sure. But even TCU, they failed to cover the spread of 7.5 points in 3 straight games. Even when they're winning, they're not really winning by a lot. These games have typically been closer. You look at it from a matchup perspective, Iowa State has a big advantage here. They're passing offense with Rocco Beck against this pretty porous TCU pass defense. A big advantage there for Iowa State. On the flip side, big advantage for TCU's passing offense against Iowa State's pass defense, but they don't really run the ball well. TCU offensively, not as scared as them offensively as I am of some of the other teams Iowa State has faced. This game ultimately is going to be close, and that's what I'm saying here. I'm not saying Iowa State is going to win this game. I think they're going to lose. This is definitely not their season, but I do think they can hang around in this spot and keep it close. I think offensively they have enough advantage against TCU's defense to at least keep the game respectable. Again, at this point, Iowa State, their season's over. There's no playoff aspirations, no Big 12 championship aspirations. It's just salvaging what's left of this season. And I think hanging around with TCU, giving them a fight here is pretty important for the future of the program, for incoming recruits and whatnot for these guys, whether they get the transfer portal, whether they stay. It's important for everybody to keep fighting, right? And I think Iowa State will hang around in this spot. They are still a halfway decent team. All right, guys, I'm very close to losing my voice here. Like I said, I'm still not 100%. I'm still a little sick, so I'm this close to losing my voice. So we're going to wrap up with these final 3 picks a little on the quicker side. I apologize for that. My next pick, my third pick in the first and goal category, my 13th pick overall in today's video. We have Northwestern at USC, 9 p.m. kickoff on Friday. Northwestern plus 16.5 here, grabbing them for minus 130 over on ESPN Bet. USC has been a decent cover team this season. However, at the 16.5 point line that we have here, just a 38% cover rate this season. They haven't really been blowing teams out. They have a big win over Michigan, and then a couple of their early games where they played cupcake teams. Otherwise, all their games, even in victory, have been on the closer side here. Northwestern, they haven't won a lot of games this season, but they have hung around in a lot of games this season. 67% cover rate overall, 75% in terms of the plus 16.5. Only twice this year, they failed to cover 16.5 points versus Tulane back in week 1 and then Oregon in week 3. Besides that, they kept the games within 17 points every game. They played some good teams. They beat Penn State outright. They cover versus Nebraska at Nebraska. USC is very good, but Northwestern defensively should be able to keep this game respectable. This is a top 15 scoring defense. They have a very good advantage versus the pass. The rushing defense is a little weaker, and that's where USC will probably go ahead and attack this team. But I think Northwestern defensively is good enough to hang around. On the flip side, a big advantage Northwestern's rushing offense against USC's run defense. So that's the area I like to see. I just think that this is a lot of points. Yes, USC is at home. Yes, they're a top 25 team in the nation. But I do think Northwestern has a couple of key spots they can utilize in terms of an advantage to go ahead and at least hang around. Not saying they're going to win the game or even keep it within 10 points, but 17 points, big number. Keep within that number, which they've done at a 75% rate this year. We have a cash in our hands here. So I like the spot a lot for Northwestern. All right, guys, my 14th pick in today's video, my 4th pick in the first and goal category. We have Kansas at Arizona, 3:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the Wildcats here over 28.5 points, which I'm grabbing for minus 140 over on DraftKings. Now, this was a basketball showdown. This would be a crazy game. Unfortunately, it's not basketball, it's football, and they're both okay. They're basketball schools for sure, but they're both okay. Arizona team total over 20.5. They've cashed in 50% of the games this year, averaging 34.13 points per game this season. However, even in missing the over, they have scored close. Like, look at this Houston game, right? Houston, a very good team, 28 points. BYU, top 10 team in the nation. Arizona scored 27 points. This Arizona team can score points in bunches here, and they're matched up with a Kansas defense that's not all that good. Kansas 76th in the nation in scoring, giving up 25 points per game on average. So their average is 25 points per game. They're matched up with an offense that is top 35 in the nation in scoring, averaging 34 points per game. Clear advantages in the passing and rushing category for Arizona offensively here. Look at some of the last couple games. You see Kansas State scored 42 on Kansas. Texas Tech scored 42. Oklahoma State only 21. UCF only 20. Arizona offensively better than those programs. So 29 points, 30 points for Arizona I think is very gettable in this spot here. Against Kansas, they're home. It's a good match spot. I'm not scared of Kansas defensively. They're very inefficient in the red zone. They give a lot of third downs. Don't really have much of a pass rush. Don't really force turnovers. It's a good spot, honestly, for Arizona to score at least 29 points, which they should be able to do pretty easily in this game, in my opinion. In our 15th and final pick, and I apologize, I know I'm flying through here, but my voice is gone. My nose is I need to blow my nose bad. All right, guys, our 15th and final pick in today's video, we have Navy at Notre Dame, 7:30 p.m. kickoff on Saturday. I'm going with the over here, 54.5, which I'm grabbing for minus 135 over on Novig. These teams are both very familiar with the over. Navy cashing this particular line at a 75% hit rate this season. Notre Dame cashing this particular line at a 50% hit rate this year. The unders have actually been hitting for them the last few games. They've actually been playing better defensively. Here's the thing. Notre Dame offensively should score somewhere in the ballpark of 40 points on their own this game. They have a huge advantage there, 26 in passing yards per game. Navy 115th in passing yards allowed. Huge advantage there. They have a decent pass rush, but Notre Dame should get whatever they want through their passing game. They should be able to run the football with great success. I expect Notre Dame can score a lot of points in this game. The question is, how much can Navy contribute? And they have a very good rushing offense. That's the key to this game here. Them being able to generate some points. Now, Notre Dame, very good run defense. I think Notre Dame's going to score somewhere in the ballpark of 40, and then all we need is a couple of touchdowns. I think 42-14, which obviously would cash this over, is a very realistic score in this spot. The last time these two teams played was 51-14, so pretty close to that. We can get that again. We'd obviously have an over on our hands. It'd be very good. I think something a little bit less maybe, but, in terms of Notre Dame scoring 51. But I do think like a 42-14, 47-14, something around, honestly, close to that should be able to go ahead and cash this over. So I like it a lot here for Notre Dame in this spot. Their offense is so good on their own where they can go ahead and score a healthy amount of points on a pretty weak Navy defense. Just a couple late touchdowns from Navy should be able to get us the over. All right, guys, that is it for me today. I apologize, the first and goal segment. Those are my favorite bets. I know I didn't make them sound like it. I've been sick for almost 2 weeks now. I don't know. I went down to the bayou, came back, and I've just been dying. And it's been almost 2 weeks, and I still don't feel much. I mean, I feel better energy-wise, but can't get rid of this damn cold. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your patience. No video last week, and then obviously me being sick this week. Yeah, that is it for me today before I lose my voice any further. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. Make sure to stay tuned for those Clash of the Titans videos. They're coming out a little later than I'd like them to. Again, being sick, I can only record so much at a time. I can't really bang out 3 videos in a row. So they will be coming out over the next 48 hours. So make sure to tune in for those. Until then, guys, hope you're all winners. Let's go ahead and make some money.